It was a normal Monday morning. The sun was up. The air felt cool. I grabbed my bag and walked outside to go to work. I took a few steps, looked at the driveway, and stopped. My car wasn't there. Not even a tire mark. It looked like the car had never existed. At first I stood there blinking. Maybe I parked it on the street? No. I always parked in the driveway. I checked again. Still nothing. My chest felt tight. My hands felt shaky. It wasn't stolen. It wasn't towed. It was just gone. I pulled out my phone with shaking fingers. I wasn't sure what to search. I wasn't sure who to call. But then my phone buzzed. A new text popped up on the screen. It was from the bank. The message said, "Your auto loan default has triggered repossession." I almost dropped my phone when I read it. Default? Repossession? That made no sense. My car was paid off. Completely paid off. I worked for years to pay that loan. Every month. On time. Never late. Never missed a payment. The bank text made it sound like I owed money. I didn't know. My heart pounded in my ears. I felt heat rush up my face. I whispered to myself, "This has to be a mistake." I opened the banking app fast. I checked my loan history. Everything was green. Everything was marked paid. Everything was clear. The app ID showed the car was paid off. So why did the bank say I defaulted? I called the bank right away. My voice shook as I said, "My name." The woman on the phone typed for a moment. Then she said, "Sir, according to our system, you opened a new auto loan using your car as collateral." My heart stopped. A new loan? I never opened a new loan. I never signed anything. I never gave permission. Someone had used my car to borrow money. I asked, "When did that loan happen?" She said, 2 weeks ago." 2 weeks ago? I was at work. I was at home. I was living my normal life. I never touched anything related to a loan. Someone acted in my name without me knowing. Then she said something that made my knees feel weak. "The loan is under your name, but the payment address was changed." Changed? To where? To who? I already knew the answer before I asked. My stomach twisted hard. Someone close to me had access to my papers. I hung up the phone slowly. My car was gone. My loan was messed up. My name was used again. My trust was broken again. And as I stared at the empty driveway, one thought hit me like a punch. Something was horribly wrong. And the danger was coming from inside my own family. After standing in my empty driveway, staring at the space where my tiny mistake, I got a long speech about being responsible. Kyle was charming in every room he walked into. He joked with everyone. He acted silly. He made people laugh. People said he had natural energy. But I lived with him. I saw the other side. The side where he forgot things, lost things, broke things, and didn't care because he knew someone else would fix it. And usually, that someone else was me. My parents loved Kyle's charm. They loved his stories and silly jokes. They loved defending him. Whenever he was in trouble, they had a new excuse ready. If he forgot homework, Mom said, "He's creative, not organized." If he got in trouble at school, Dad said, "Teachers pick on fun kids." And when he spent money he didn't have, they said, "He's just young. He'll learn." But he never learned, because nobody ever let him face the results. I, on the other hand, was the serious kid, the old soul, the reliable one, the one who followed rules, woke up on time, did chores without being asked, and saved money. I wasn't fun like Kyle. I wasn't silly or charming, but I was steady. I did everything right. And because of that, my parents gave me more work, not more praise. If something broke in the house, I had to fix it. If Kyle forgot something, I had to bring it. If Kyle needed help with homework, Mom told me to sit beside him and explain it. If Kyle wanted to go somewhere, Dad told me to drive him. I spent more time cleaning up Kyle's messes than living my own life. Kyle never took responsibility because he was never asked to. When he crashed Dad's old truck, they blamed the rain. When he lost his wallet 3 times in 1 month, they blamed the wallet. When he scratched Mom's car, they blamed the gas station. And when Kyle yelled at me for not helping him fast enough, they blamed me for not being patient. So when my car disappeared and the bank said a new loan was taken out under my name, I felt a cold, heavy feeling in my stomach. I didn't want it to be Kyle. I didn't want to think he would do something that big. But deep inside, I already knew the answer before the bank woman even finished talking. Kyle was the only person in the house who knew where I kept my papers. He was the only one who ever borrowed my keys without asking. He was the only one who kept getting into trouble with money. He was the only one who thought problems Family didn't just expect me to help Kyle. They expected me to fix his disasters forever. And now, I had a new disaster. In my name, with my car, and my life on the line. After staring at the empty driveway for almost an hour, I finally picked up my phone. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped it. I typed in the number for the repossession office and pressed call. My heart pounded as the phone rang. When a woman answered, I took a deep breath and said my name. I told her my car had been taken and that the bank said I had defaulted on a loan. I hoped she would tell me it was a mistake, but she didn't. She typed for a moment, then said in a calm voice, Mr. Walker, you took out a $9,500 title loan against your car and never paid it. For a second, it felt like my whole body froze. $9,500? A title loan? I knew those words, but not in my own life. I never took any. A kind of title loan. I paid my car off early. I saved for years to do it. Hearing her say I borrowed money made my blood turn cold. My mouth felt dry as I managed to say, Ma'am, I never took any loan. There must be a mistake. She paused, but didn't sound confused. She didn't sound unsure. She said, Sir, the documents we have show your car title, your name, and your information. My heart dropped lower with each word, she continued. Someone came in person with all the paperwork. I felt sick. Whoever did this wasn't a stranger off the street. I asked her what someone would need to take out a title loan like that. She listed everything slowly, the car title, a signature, a home address, and a social security number. As she spoke, I felt like each word punched me in the chest. My car title, my signature, my address, my SSN, all the things someone close to me could easily find. Someone who knew where I kept my papers. Someone who knew how to get into my room. I closed my eyes as she talked, trying not to feel scared. But I was scared. I knew what forged signatures looked like. I had seen them before. I knew the way someone in my family always copied my writing when they wanted something. I knew who had a habit of taking things that weren't his. My head spun as I realized everything pointed in the same direction. I swallowed hard and asked the woman softly, who signed for it. She paused again, like she was reading the screen carefully. For a moment, everything felt still. Everything felt quiet. My whole world waited for her next sentence. When she finally spoke, she said the name clearly, like she had said it 100 times before. A man named Kyle Walker. My jaw locked instantly. I couldn't move my mouth. I couldn't breathe. My own little brother. The brother who broke everything he touched. The brother who never paid for his mistakes. The brother who always smiled while I cleaned up the mess. He didn't just touch my stuff this time. He didn't just borrow money. He didn't just take something small. He took my car, my title, my information, my entire identity for a huge loan. I couldn't speak right away. I felt my hands go numb. I slowly lowered the phone from my ear and just sat there on the curb outside my house. Cars drove by. Birds chirped. The world kept going, but everything inside me felt like it had stopped. Kyle had crossed a line I didn't even think he knew existed. For the first time in my life, I realized something scary. He didn't ruin the car. He ruined my trust. After hearing the repossession office say Kyle's name, I felt like the air was pulled out of my lungs. I couldn't stay still. I grabbed my bag, ran inside my job, and asked my coworker if I could borrow her car. She looked worried, but she handed me the keys. I thanked her quickly and drove off with my hands shaking on the wheel. I didn't even turn on the radio. My mind was too loud already. The whole drive to my parents' house felt like it took forever. My heart kept pounding. My stomach kept twisting. I kept replaying the woman's voice saying, a man named Kyle Walker. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew it was true. My little brother had gone too far this time. Way too far. Taking my car wasn't an accident. It was a choice. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw something that made my chest ache. My car wasn't there, of course. But my family's house looked the exact same as always, peaceful, calm, and completely normal. It almost made me angry. Nothing about this felt normal. I slammed the door, walked up the steps, and pushed the front door open without knocking. I was done being polite. Kyle was on the couch playing video games like it was any other day. Feet up, controller in hand, laughing at the screen, like nothing bad had happened, like he hadn't used my name for a huge loan, like he hadn't gotten my car taken away. And then I saw the thing that made my blood boil. My car keys were sitting on the coffee table in front of him, like a trophy he won. My hands curled into fists. I held up the repossession notice so he could see it clearly. The paper shook a little, but I kept my arms steady. Kyle didn't look scared. He didn't look confused. He didn't even look sorry. He just paused his game, looked up at me, and frowned like I was interrupting something important. Relax, bro, he said, rolling his eyes. I needed money. I thought I could pay it back. Relax. Relax? My entire life was falling apart, and he wanted me to relax. I felt something snap inside me. I stepped closer and said, you took out a $9,500 loan in my name. My name, Kyle, you took my car title. But he just shrugged again, like this was no big deal. I asked through clenched teeth, needed money for what? My voice shook, but it was steady enough to show I wasn't playing. For a moment, Kyle hesitated. Then he sighed, like I was being annoying, and said, a gambling thing. It got out of hand. I lost the whole thing that night. My mind almost couldn't understand his words. A gambling debt. He lost everything in one night. $9,500 gone. Because he wanted to play games with money. Because he wanted fast cash. Because he didn't want to deal with hard work. My knees felt weak for a moment. I leaned on the wall to keep standing. Kyle continued talking like this was a story about a bad movie he watched. I really thought I'd win it back, he said. I thought I'd fix it before you found out. He didn't look embarrassed. He didn't look ashamed. He just looked annoyed that I was mad. My head started to pound. My hands felt numb. I looked at Kyle, really looked at him, and understood something I had never wanted to admit. He didn't think he did anything wrong. He really thought my life was his backup plan. My car, my money, my name, all his to use whenever he needed. And standing there in that living room, staring at my stolen keys, I felt the betrayal. Hit me so hard it almost knocked the breath out of my chest. I stood in the living room holding the repossession notice. My hands were shaking, and my face felt hot. Kyle sat there like nothing was wrong. I felt like shouting, but before I could say another word, I heard fast footsteps rushing down the hallway. Mom came running in with her arms waving in the air. She pointed at me before even asking what happened. Brandon, she yelled. Why didn't you tell us you were struggling with bills? Her voice echoed around the room. I blinked at her in shock. Struggling? Bills? What was she talking about? I wasn't the one who owed money. I wasn't the one who took out a loan. But she looked at me like I had caused everything. I opened my mouth to explain, but Dad walked in behind her with a serious face. He didn't ask a single question. He didn't look at the paper in my hand. He didn't even look at Kyle. He just marched straight toward me and said, your brother wouldn't have done this if you communicated better. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. Communicated what? I didn't even know there was a problem until that morning. I stared at Dad, trying to understand his logic. I didn't take out any loan, I said. Kyle used my name. Kyle used my car title. How is that my fault? Dad shook his head like I wasn't listening. If you had told us you were having money problems, we would have helped, he said, acting like he was being wise. Money problems? I had no money problems. Kyle had the money problems. My stomach twisted as I watched both of my parents defend him without knowing the truth. They didn't ask what actually happened. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't ask how much debt was in my name. They just came running in to protect Kyle like always. Then Kyle spoke again. He didn't look scared. He didn't look sorry. He didn't even lower his voice. He just shrugged and said, you're good with money. You can fix this. My mouth fell open. I felt my face go hot with anger. Fix this? Fix what he did? Fix a loan he made? Fix a debt he lost gambling? I almost felt dizzy from how unfair it sounded. Mom put her hand on Kyle's shoulder like he was the victim. He didn't mean to cause trouble, she said. He thought you had things under control. Under control? My life had been turned upside down in one morning. My car was gone. My name was on a loan I never took. My credit was damaged. And somehow, they still said Kyle meant well. Dad stepped closer to me. Listen, he said. Kyle made a mistake. A small mistake. You're older. You can handle this. A small mistake? $9,500? My car being taken? My identity being used? That wasn't small. That wasn't even close to small. They were treating this like Kyle spilled juice on the carpet. Not like he emptied my whole life savings. I took a step back because I felt sick. The room felt tight. My breathing felt uneven. My parents weren't just making excuses, they were rewriting reality. They were turning his crime into my responsibility. They were acting like I owed Kyle something. Like my hard work belonged to him. Kyle leaned back on the couch, lifted the game controller, and said, just relax, dude. You'll figure it out. You always do. His tone was so casual it made my stomach churn. He talked like I was his personal repairman. Like cleaning up his messes was just my job. As I looked at the three of them, my mom defending him, my dad blaming me, and Kyle acting proud of what he did, I felt something heavy settle in my chest. They didn't just let him hurt me. They expected me to fix it. And that feeling made me sicker than the missing car ever did. I left my parents' house feeling tired and angry. My head hurt. My chest felt heavy, like someone had placed a giant stone on it. I sat in my coworker's car and closed my eyes for a moment. I knew I needed proof. Real proof. Not guesses. Not feelings. I needed documents that showed exactly what Kyle had done. So I called the loan office again and asked for every file they had under my name. The woman on the phone sounded surprised, but said she would email everything right away. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. I opened the email, clicked the attachments, and waited for the files to load. My heart beat faster as the first page appeared on the screen. It was the title loan agreement, the same one used to steal my car. I stared at it in shock. Right at the top was my name. Big, bold, clear. My full name written in letters I knew too well. Seeing my name on a loan I never signed made my stomach twist. It felt like someone had taken my face and put it on a stranger's body. I scrolled down slowly, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then I saw my car information, the make, the model, the year, even the VIN number. All correct, all real, all mine. It was like someone had reached into my life and pulled out the most important object I owned. My paid-off car, the thing I worked years for, was used like a tool to get fast cash. And I wasn't even asked. I kept reading, and then I stopped. My signature was at the bottom of the form. Except, it wasn't my signature. It looked sloppy, rushed, and totally wrong. My real signature leans to the right. This one leaned to the left. My real signature has smooth loops. This one had jagged, shaky lines. Whoever forged it didn't even try to make it look close. Then the worst part appeared. Right under my fake signature was a space for secondary contact. And inside that space was Kyle's real phone number. Not a random number. Not a stranger's number. His number. The same. A number he used every day. The same number I had saved in my phone since we were kids. I stared at it, feeling a wave of anger wash over me. I scrolled down again and saw a small comments box. In messy handwriting, the notes said, "Urgent family emergency." I knew that handwriting anywhere. It was Kyle's. He didn't even try to hide it. He wrote it like he was scribbling on a school paper. Like this wasn't a loan for thousands of dollars. Like this wasn't something serious. It was all written in the same handwriting he used for grocery lists and game notes. They didn't hide it. They didn't cover it up. They didn't even pretend to keep it secret. They just used my life like it belonged to them. Then I opened the second document. It listed all the charges added to the loan since Kyle took it out. My eyes widened as the numbers added up. Late fees, $1,200. Interest, $1,900. Repossession cost, $750. I grabbed a notebook and wrote the numbers down. $9,500, $1,200, $1,900, $750 equals $13,350. $13,350. All tied to my name. All caused by my brother. All silently waiting to crush my credit, my savings, and my future. I stared at the final total until my vision blurred. It wasn't just a loan anymore. It wasn't just a missing car. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a giant, heavy pile of debt placed right on my shoulders without my permission. And as I sat there, holding the phone, one thought filled my entire chest. Everything they took, every dollar, every paper, every signature, was stolen straight from me. When I walked back into my parents' house after reading the loan papers, the whole room felt strange. Mom and Dad were sitting on the couch with very serious faces, like they were about to punish me for something. Kyle sat between them, looking annoyed, like he was being forced to listen to a long school lecture. I stood in the doorway holding the folder of documents in my hand, waiting for someone to say something honest. Mom motioned for me to sit down. "Brandon," she said, softly, "we need to talk." Her eyes looked watery, like she was getting ready to cry. I sat across from them because I didn't trust myself to sit any closer. My heart pounded in my chest. My hands felt cold. I waited for them to take responsibility, but that wasn't what happened. Mom wiped her eyes dramatically and said, "You're ruining Kyle's future by making a scene." I blinked at her. My mind almost couldn't understand the words. Ruining Kyle's future? Kyle was the one who took out a $9,000 $500 loan in my name. Kyle was the one who lost it gambling. Kyle was the one who caused the repossession. But somehow, in her mind, I was the problem. Her words felt like someone flipping a table inside my head. Before I could respond, Dad leaned forward. His voice was deep and stern, like he was giving an important speech. "We're a family," he said. "We do not involve strangers. I need to pay the loan off quietly." My eyebrows lifted. Pay it off quietly? As if the money was mine to lose. As if I had made the mess. As if choosing silence was the correct answer. My chest felt tight hearing those words. Dad kept talking. "This is something we handle inside the home," he said. "Trouble." Kyle leaned back on the couch with his arms crossed. He didn't look scared or worried. He didn't look sorry. He looked bored, like the whole conversation was taking too long. Then he lifted his head, looked right at me, and said the words that made my stomach twist. "Come on, Brandon. You're the responsible one." It sounded like a joke. A cruel joke. A joke I had heard my whole life. I used to feel proud when people called me responsible. It meant I did the right thing. It meant I worked hard. It meant I tried my best. But here, in this moment, those words meant something very different. They meant I was supposed to carry everyone else's mistakes. They meant I was supposed to pay for things Kyle broke. They meant my good behavior was being used against me. I stared at Kyle, then at my parents. I realized something important. They didn't see me as another member of the family. They didn't see me as someone they should protect. They saw me as a safety net, as a backup plan, as the quiet one who would fix whatever mess Kyle made next. Mom kept crying softly. Dad kept repeating words like family and duty. Kyle kept shrugging, like this was all normal. But nothing about this was normal. Nothing about this felt fair. Nothing about this felt like love. Inside my chest, something snapped. Not loudly. Not angrily. Just a clear, calm break like a rope that had finally been pulled too tight. I wasn't responsible. I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the hero. I was being USD. And for the first time, I finally saw it clearly. The room felt heavy. Mom was crying. Dad was shouting. Kyle was glaring at me like I had committed a crime. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel scared of their noise. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like I had to fix anything. I felt strangely calm, like a storm had passed inside me and left only silence behind. I didn't shout back. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just stood up slowly and took a deep breath. My parents watched me, waiting for me to apologize or promise to fix Kyle's mess. They expected me to fold, like I always did. They thought I would change my mind and help. But I stayed silent and steady, and that alone made all three of them nervous. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. My hands felt steady for the first time in hours. I scrolled through my recent calls and found the number for the loan office. Mom wiped her eyes and whispered, "What are you doing?" But I didn't answer her. I was done explaining myself to people who didn't listen. I pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice. Then the loan officer picked up. Her voice came through the speaker, calm and polite. "This is Melissa from City Auto Loans. How can I help you today?" I swallowed, drew another breath, and said clearly, "Yes, I want to file a fraud claim. Someone used my name without permission." Mom gasped so loudly it almost echoed. She covered her mouth like I had just done something terrible. She didn't gasp when my car was stolen. She didn't gasp when Kyle forged my name. No, she saved her shock for the moment I fought back. Dad stood up so fast his chair slid across the floor. His face turned red. "Brandon," he yelled, "you are breaking this family apart." He looked like he couldn't believe I had chosen to protect myself instead of protecting Kyle. But I didn't look at him. I kept talking to the loan officer. "Please send me everything I need to sign," I said. "I want the fraud claim started today." Kyle suddenly jumped up from the couch, his face twisted with anger. He grabbed a pillow and threw it across the room. It hit the wall, bounced off, and landed on the floor. "You're a snake," he shouted. His voice cracked like he couldn't believe I was choosing myself over him. A snake. Because I reported him. Because he got caught. Because I wouldn't cover up his crime. Not because he used my name. Not because he stole my car. Not because he owed me thousands. No, because I stopped playing the role they gave me. Mom's tears began again. She rushed toward me, grabbing my arm. "Brandon, stop. You're hurting Kyle's future." Her voice shook like she truly believed I was the villain in this story. She didn't mention my future. She didn't mention the money stolen from me. She didn't mention the fake signature. Only Kyle's future mattered. Dad pointed at me with a shaking hand. End this call, he ordered. Right now. He said it like I was still a little kid who had to obey him. But I wasn't a kid anymore, and this wasn't a mistake that could be swept under a rug. I gently pulled my arm away from Mom. I looked at all three of them, and for the first time, I didn't feel small. I said into the phone, "Thank you for your help, Melissa," and ended the call. Then I looked at my family one last time. "No," I said softly. "I'm not breaking the family." I slid my phone into my pocket. "I'm finally done being your mule." By Radabit, /, and for the first time ever, I truly meant it. The days after I filed the fraud claim felt weirdly quiet. My phone didn't ring. No one yelled. No one begged. It was like my parents and Kyle were waiting to see if I would change my mind. But I didn't. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for choosing myself. I spent the next few days checking emails, sending papers, and talking to the loan office. It was scary, but it felt right. 2 weeks later, everything started happening at once. I was sitting in my small kitchen eating cereal when my phone buzzed. It was an email from the loan company. I opened it slowly, nervous about what I might see. The first line made me stop breathing for a second. It said, "The loan has been placed fully under Kyle Walker." I stared at the words until they blurred. The loan was no longer mine. It was Kyle's, exactly where it belonged. A few hours later, I got another message. This one was from the credit bureau. I tapped the screen with shaking hands. The message said, "Repossession mark removed from your credit report." I let out a breath I didn't even know I'd been holding. My credit score, something I worked so hard to protect, was clean again. No giant black mark. No record of missing payments. It felt like someone lifted a heavy backpack off my shoulders. The next day, the loan company called and said something that made my heart jump. "We are returning your car." I stood in the middle of my living room and didn't move for a full 10 seconds. My car, the one I paid for, the one Kyle used as a ticket for fast cash, was coming back. When the tow truck dropped it in my driveway later that afternoon, I almost felt like hugging it. Seeing it back where it belonged made me feel whole again. Later that week, I got another email. This one said Kyle was banned from taking loans in the entire state for a long time. They said he had committed serious misuse, and he would need special approval to get any financial help ever again. I read the email twice. Kyle was always getting easy help from everyone. Now he couldn't. Life finally handed him a consequence he couldn't dodge. The day after that, my parents got a warning letter. It said they had aided identity misuse by letting Kyle use my documents and by ignoring what happened. They didn't get arrested or fined, but the warning was serious. If they ever tried something like that again, they could face charges. When Mom called to tell me, she sounded small and scared. It was the first time I ever heard her voice like that. Then Kyle called me, and this time, he was the one crying. "Bro," he sobbed into the phone, "please fix this. I can't pay $13,000. I don't have it. They said the whole loan is on me now. Please, please help me." His voice shook like he was the victim, like the world had suddenly turned unfair. I listened quietly, letting him finish every word. He wanted me to save him again. He wanted me to step in like I always did. But I finally understood. Saving him only taught him he could keep hurting me. So I said one calm sentence. The sentence he needed to hear. The sentence I had waited years to say. "Then you shouldn't have stolen $13,000. He sucked in a breath like I punched him. I didn't wait for him to answer. I didn't wait for more excuses. I didn't wait for more tears. I hung up the phone slowly, gently, and without regret. For the first time ever, the fallout landed on the person who caused it, not on the person who always cleaned it up. After everything that happened, I knew I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Every wall reminded me of being blamed. Every room reminded me of being used. Every look from my parents told me they expected me to clean up Kyle's mess forever. I packed a few bags quietly. I didn't slam doors. I didn't yell. I didn't even leave a note. I simply walked out the front door and didn't look back. I stayed with a friend for a few days while I figured out what to do next. My friend didn't ask 100 questions. He didn't blame me. He didn't act like I ruined anything. He just gave me a place to sleep, food to eat, and time to breathe. It felt strange at first. It wasn't used to being around people who didn't expect something from me. But it felt peaceful. It felt safe. It felt like, for once, I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's choices. After a week, I found a small apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't big. But it was mine. The kitchen was small. The living room was tiny. and the bedroom had one window. Still, it felt like the first place in my life that belonged only to me. I signed the papers, got the keys, and moved in with a feeling I hadn't felt in a long time: relief. One of the first things I bought for my new place was a safe. Not a huge one, but a strong one with a heavy door and a long code. I placed it in my closet on the floor and opened it slowly. Then I gathered every important paper I owned: my birth certificate, my social security card, my car title, my credit papers, my bank documents, and locked them inside. When I closed the safe, I felt something lift off my chest. My documents were secure. My identity was secure. My life was secure. Next, I blocked Kyle on everything. Phone calls, blocked. Texts, blocked. Social media, blocked. Even his email. I didn't do it to be mean. I did it because every message from him felt like a rope pulling me backwards. I needed to move forward now. I needed space. I needed peace. And blocking him gave me that. A week later, I opened Facebook to check a message from a coworker. As I scrolled, something familiar caught my eye: Kyle's name. He had posted a big message. It said, "Some brothers are cold-hearted." Hundreds of people liked it. Some commented, "Stay strong." Others wrote, "Family can be tough." I stared at the screen for a moment. Cold-hearted? Was that me? Was choosing my own safety cold-hearted? Was saying no to being used cold-hearted? Was protecting my future a bad thing? I put my phone down slowly and took a deep breath. Maybe Kyle really believed that. Maybe he thought I was supposed to fix everything for him forever. Maybe he couldn't see the damage he caused. But I wasn't going to explain myself anymore. Maybe I wasn't cold-hearted. Maybe I was finally warm to myself. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the spare tire they kept in the trunk, pulled out only when Kyle broke something again. I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the cleaner. I wasn't the person they depended on only when things fell apart. I was something better. Something stronger. Something I didn't know I could be. I wasn't their backup plan anymore. I was my own engine. And I was finally moving forward on a road they could never steal from me again.